Lights left on in the corner, not to light the whole room, just enough to remind me I don't need everything bright. I never sit in the middle, corners feel more honest. They don't ask questions, they don't expect performances. Lights left on in the corner like a background thought, always there but never demanded attention. The room feels used to me, like it knows my weight, knows how long I stay quiet before I move again. I come here after the day, let's go. Not looking for answers, just somewhere that doesn't talk back. Phones stay face down, time stops being measured. Nothing in this corner needs to be improved. Lights left on in the corner, soft enough to ignore, strong enough to stay. I don't try to fix the silence, I let it stretch, let it fill the space between one thought and the next. Corners don't judge the pauses, they don't rush the moments, they don't ask what I plan to do next. I sit longer than necessary, because nothing here feels unnecessary. Lights left on in the corner, while the rest of the room fades. Not disappearing, just stepping back. I breathe slower, without noticing, like my body finally agrees with the pace of my head. There's comfort in being slightly unnoticed, not invisible, just not required to explain. This corner doesn't need me sharp, doesn't need me loud. It lets me exist exactly as I am. Left on in the corner, and I leave them there, not as a signal, not as a habit, just as proof that I showed up and stayed. Lights left on in the corner. Lights left on in the corner. Chair by the window, same one every night. The fabric knows my shape better than most people do. I don't sit to look outside, sit to let the outside stay where it is, without pulling me back. The window does doesn't frame anything special, just buildings breathing, streetlights blinking, cars passing without stories. I watch movement without following it, like letting thoughts pass without climbing inside them. By the window, where time loosen minutes stop acting important. They don't line up anymore. The world keeps doing its thing. Deadlines, signals, urgency, but none of it fits through this glass tonight. I notice reflections more than views. My own face layered over the street, half here, half elsewhere. I don't try to read meaning into it. I let it blur, let the night decide what stays clear. Chair by the window, holding my weight without asking what I carried in today. I don't replay conversations, I don't plan replies. I just sit and let the noise settle on its own. City looks tired, but still polite. Lights stay on, even when nobody's watching. I relate to that more than I should. Stay invisible without trying to be seen. Chair by the window, the room stays behind me, the night stays in front. And for once, I don't feel pulled in either direction. I stay longer than planned, not because I'm stuck, but because this moment doesn't rush me out. The chair doesn't move, the window doesn't speak, and somehow that's enough company. Chair by the window, I stay. Chair by the window. Same spot every night like muscle memory. I don't think about it, my body already knows where to go. Backdrops, backdrops. Shoes come off, the day doesn't follow me past this point. Same spot every night, not because it's perfect, but because it's familiar, and familiarity feels lighter. I sit the same way, lean the same direction. Even my silence shows up on schedule. This spot has seen every version of me, tired, distracted, quiet, unfinished. I don't have to introduce myself here. The room already knows how I breathe when I finally slow down. Every night where nothing improves, but nothing gets worse either. No progress reports, no milestones, just time passing without needing proof. I used to think routine meant stuck, like repeating meant failing, but now it feels more like somewhere to land. The same spot catches me before I overthink what today was supposed to mean. Same spot every night, the room adjusts around me. Lights dim naturally, sounds fade without effort. I don't chase motivation here, I don't measure energy. I just sit until my head matches my body. There's comfort in knowing where you'll be at the end of the day, even if you don't know what the day was for. Same spot every night,
and I'm not trying to change it.
some habits aren't traps, they're anchors.
Same spot every night.
The room knows me well, better than most people do. They see me coming without energy to explain everything. See me sit down before I'd even finish dunking. I don't need to perform here, the walls already know what kind of day I had by the way I breathe. The room knows me well, knows when I stay quiet on purpose, knows when I'm quiet, because there's nothing left to give. It doesn't interrupt, doesn't ask what happened, just stays the same, so I don't have to. I've been loud in other places, careful in others. Here I don't manage my tone, I let it fall wherever it lands. The room doesn't misunderstand poses, it doesn't rush the silence. Your last moments stretch until they feel honest. The room knows me well, it's watched me change slowly, not dramatically dressed and often noticed. Different clothes, same costume, different worries, same spot on the floor. Some nights I go, some nights I dark. The room never treats those as different situations. It doesn't keep score, doesn't remember mistakes, only remembers that I came back again. The room knows me well, knows when I need light and when I don't. I leave things unfinished here, thoughts, sentences, tense, and nothing in this room tries to complete them for me. There's comfort in being known without explanation, in being familiar without being predictable. The room doesn't need me sharp, doesn't need me certain. It accepts whatever version shows up tonight. The room knows me well, and I let it. I don't clean up the feeling before I leave. I trust the room, they'll hold it until I'm back. The room knows me. The room knows me. Nothing happens here, and that's the point. No notifications, no turning points, no moment that asks to be remembered. I sit long enough to notice how rare that feels. Nothing happens here, no updates, no progress, ball moving. The room doesn't reward me for staying, it just lets me stay without explanation. I'm used to places that need something from me, energy, attention, a response. This corner doesn't, it lets my hands rest where they land.
Nothing happens here, and I don't try to change that. I don't reach for stimulation, I don't feel the silence. I let it stretch until it feels normal again.
Time passes but it doesn't announce itself. Minutes don't line up, they drift. I stop checking how long I've been here because it stops mattering. Nothing happens here but things settle. Breathing slow, shoulders drop, thoughts stop trying to prove their value. There's no highlight, no summary, nothing to carry forward. Just a quiet understanding that being still is already enough. Nothing happens here, and I let it. Not everything needs movement, not everything needs direction. Some nights the absence of events is the most honest thing around. Nothing happens. Here.
Car doesn't feel empty, it just feels unfamiliar. explaining itself, filling gaps as if silence needs permission. Quiet doesn't feel empty once you stay long enough. At first it echoes, then it softens, then it holds without asking anything back.
I notice small sounds I usually miss, the way the room hums, the way fabric shifts when I move an inch. None of it is loud, but all of it is present. Quiet doesn't feel empty, it feels wide, like space you don't have to cross, just standing until your sense of distance changes. I don't fill the silence with explanations. I don't narrate what this moment means. I let quiet exist as its own thing, not a pause, not a break, just a state. There's comfort in not being interrupted by my own thoughts. They still show up, but softer, like they know this isn't their turn to leave. Quiet doesn't feel empty when nothing's missing. No expectations left behind, no urgency knocking, just the room breathing at the same pace I am. I used to mistake silence for absence. Now it feels more like presence without pressure. Something solid you don't have to hold to know it's there. Quiet doesn't feel empty. It feels enough.
Breathing without thinking, it doesn't happen right away. At first the head stays busy, still checking corners, still scanning for meaning, like it forgot how to stand down. Breathing without thinking feels unfamiliar. The body knows the rhythm, but the mind keeps interrupting, asking questions that don't need answers tonight. I notice my shoulders before my thoughts, notice the way they drop when I stop explaining myself. No narrative, no inner voice, just air moving in and out. Breathing without thinking means letting the body lead, not controlling the pace, not counting the seconds, just trusting that the next breath will arrive on its own. try to calm down, I stop trying to be calm. There's a difference, one is effort, the other is permission. The room helps by not reacting to anything.
Breathing without thinking.
Breathing without thinking happens in moments between one thought ending and the next one, deciding whether it's worth showing up. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's enough. The body settles before the mind understands. Heart rate slows, hands feel heavier, feet remember they're supported by the floor. Breathing without thinking isn't a state I hold. It comes, it leaves, it comes back again. I don't chase it, I just notice when I'm inside it.
Straight, I don't have to stay alert. My weight settles in the room, adjusts around it. The corner holds like it remembers. Not specific night, it's not exact thoughts, just the way I arrive when I finally stop carrying things. I notice how little effort this moment needs. No posture to maintain, no version of myself to present. Just being here is already enough participation. The corner holds and nothing slips. Thoughts still appear, but they don't fall far. They land softly and stay where they land. There's relief in not having to support myself, in letting the space do its job, and trusting that the flow will keep doing what it's always done. The corner holds without comment. It doesn't tell me I deserve this rest. It doesn't question how long I've been here. It just stays steady, so I can stop checking. I breathe slower because nothing's pushing me forward. Time doesn't lean in with expectations. It sits back and waits with me. Just long enough for my body to remember what support feels like. The corner holds and I stay.
thoughts past the wall. They don't knock anymore. They used to push, used to demand space. Now they just move through, like air finding a crack. Thoughts past the wall without stopping to explain. No backstory, no urgency, just fragments drifting at their own pace. I notice them because they're quieter. Ideas show up already halfway gone. They don't ask me to finish them, they don't wait for agreement. Thoughts past the wall, and I don't chase. I let them blur at the edges, let them change shape before I can name them. There was a time I held every thought tight, like it mattered, like it needed direction. Tonight, they don't need me to make sense of them. Thoughts past the wall, some familiar, some unfinished, but none of them stay long enough to turn into problems or plans. Stay steady while my head moves. Nothing collides, nothing escalates, just motion without consequence. Thoughts past the wall and leave no marks. They don't rearrange the room, they don't change the night. They just remind me that movement doesn't always mean direction. Thoughts past the wall. Thoughts past the wall. Not every thought stays. Some just show up to stretch, then move on before I can give them a name. I used to grab everything, afraid of missing something important. Now I let most of it pass without ceremony. thought stays, and that's not a failure. Some ideas are just weather. They change, they drift, they don't need shelter. I don't owe them attention just because they arrive. I notice the difference now between noise and signal. Signal sits quietly, doesn't rush, doesn't repeat itself. Noise keeps knocking, asking to be taken seriously. Not every thought stays, because not everything belongs here. Some things were built for other rooms, other versions of me that don't exist tonight. I don't argue with my head anymore. I don't negotiate with anxiety. I let thoughts line up and decide for themselves which ones are strong enough to remain standing. Not every thought stays, most leave quietly. No slam doors, no conclusions, just a sense of space getting wider without effort. The room feels lighter as my head does less. Nothing gets solved, nothing needs to be. Sometimes clarity is just knowing when not to carry forward. Not every thought stays, and I don't chase the ones that go. If something matters, it knows how to return. If it doesn't, I let it disappear without apology. Not every thought stays.
Letting the noise fade, now pushing it away. Just turning the volume down a little at a time until it stops demanding to be understood. Letting the noise fade feels different than silence. Silence is sudden, this is gradual. Like the room deciding it doesn't need to echo anymore. I don't mute my thoughts, I don't shut anything off. I let sounds overlap until the loud ones lose their edges and blend into the background. Letting the noise fade means staying present, not escaping, not distracting, just noticing which voice is softer when you stop reacting. The noise was never external. It lived in the way I rushed, in the way I anticipated problems that hadn't arrived yet. Those sounds fade too when there's nothing left to perform for. Letting the noise fade isn't losing focus. It's choosing where attention rests when everything else stops asking for it. The room doesn't change, the night doesn't shift. Only the weight of each sound becomes easier to carry, until eventually most of it isn't carried at all. Letting the noise fade. I don't notice the moment it's gone. I just realize I'm breathing easier and nothing feels loud enough to interrupt that. Letting the noise fade. Letting the noise fade. Letting the noise fade.
Still but not stuck. There's a difference. Still is a choice. Stuck feels accidental. Tonight nothing feels accidental. I'm exactly where I'm meant to. Pause. Still but not stuck. I can feel movement without needing to move. Like knowing the door is unlocked, even if I don't open it right now. The room feels quiet, but not heavy. Nothing pressing down, nothing waiting on me. Just space that knows I might leave later, and that's okay.
but not stuck. My thoughts don't pull, they hover. Close enough to notice, far enough to ignore when I want to. I don't rush the next moment, I don't prepare for it either. I let this one finish being what it is before it becomes something else. By itself.
Still but not stuck means trusting momentum. Not forcing it, not fearing it, just knowing it hasn't disappeared. It's just resting. There's comfort in not needing direction. Every second in knowing that clarity doesn't always arrive as a plan. Sometimes it arrives as ease.
Still but not stuck. Still but not stuck. I sit with that. Not as a statement, not as a decision, just as a quiet truth that doesn't need to be defended. Still but not stuck.
Nothing needs my attention, and I can feel that difference. The pull is gone, quiet kind, the kind that doesn't announce itself. It just stops asking questions. Nothing needs my attention, not the phone, not the clock, not the part of my head that usually keeps checking. If something's wrong, I'm used to scanning for what matters next, for what needs fixing, for what needs responding to. Tonight, that habit loosens, and nothing rushes in to replace it. Nothing needs my attention, and nothing feels ignored. Things exist without demanding priority, without lining up to be sorted. My thoughts still appear, but they don't wave their hands. They pass, they hover, they fade without insisting. I follow, it feels unfamiliar in a good way. Nothing needs my attention, so my body settles first. Breathe deep in, jaw loosens the small tensions I forgot to notice. Let go on their own. Their space where urgency used to sit, not replaced by anything, just left open, like a clear table after a long day, with no plans to fill it again tonight. Nothing needs my attention, and I don't need to hold that thought. It doesn't need to be protected or remembered. It's just here, like the room, like the night, like me, staying quietly without assignment.
Time sits down with me, not across the room, not hovering, right here, close enough that I stop measuring it. Time sits down with me and doesn't check the clock. No talking fingers, no reminders, just presence without direction. I'm used to time pulling forward, dragging moments behind it tonight. It doesn't move, it listens the way quiet people do. Time sits down with me like it's finished rushing, like it realized nothing's chasing anymore. We stay without negotiating how long this should last. But 4 minutes past, I felt wasted, breath settling, posture easing, the room sinking with something slower than thought. Time sustained with me and becomes background, not gone, just tempo, like a hymn restingly but it doesn't need to hold to be reassuring. I don't ask water snakes, I don't prepare to move. If something changes, it'll do it quietly, without asking me to notice immediately. Time sits down with me and we don't speak, not because there's nothing to say, but because to be said for this moment to stay whole. Time sits down with me. Sits down with me.
The corner gets softer, not smaller, not quieter. Just less defined, like it doesn't need edges anymore to know where it is. The corner gets softer, as if the room is exhaling. Nothing moves, but everything relaxes in ways that don't need to be named. I don't lean the same way, I don't sit as carefully. My weight spreads out without asking permission, like the space understands I'm almost done holding myself together. The corner gets softer, and so do my thoughts. They don't hold shape long enough to become concerns. They blur before they settle. There's a quiet release, and not needing support anymore. Not because I'm strong, but because the need is dissolving on its own. The room doesn't keep me upright, it lets me sink just a little. The corner gets softer, like it's preparing to let me go. Not pushing, not pulling, just loosening its grip on being a place I stay. I don't rush the leaving, I don't mark the moment. I stay inside the softness until it feels natural to move without thinking about movement. The corner gets softer, and I let it, knowing this isn't the end, just the part where holding is no longer necessary. The corner gets softer.
Leaving the light on, not as a signal, not as a promise, just enough brightness that the room doesn't disappear when I step away.
Leaving the light on
Feels different than staying. Staying means settling.
This feels like trusting that I can come back without needing direction.
I don't clean up the quiet before I leave. I let the stillness remain unexplained, unorganized, like a sentence that doesn't need a period to be complete. Leaving the light on because darkness doesn't need help. It knows how to arrive on its own turn. The light is just a courtesy, a soft outline of where I've been sitting.
I don't mark the end, I won't summarize the night.
What mattered already settled, what didn't found its way out without needing permission.
Leaving the light on
So the room stays familiar, not frozen, not preserved, just ready to receive whatever version of me shows up next time.
There's no rush to exit, no checklist to finish.
I move when my body decides, not when the moment tells me to.